Two enormous brands struggling for the last couple seasons on Sunday night in prime time. Week 1, LSU, Florida State. We got our guy Carter from LSU Power Hour joining us to break it all down for us. Carter, what's going on, man?
What's up, Mark? I decided to rock some Florida State colors.
Look at that.
I wanted to blend in. I was wearing a purple hat, purple shirt, but I wanted to show some love to one of my favorite running backs of all time. That is none other than Baton Rouge native Warrick Dunn. I'm sure there's a few Warrick Dunn fans out there in the universe watching this right now. And it's crazy. Like, if you're in your mid-30s, you have a romantic relationship with Peter Warrick's highlight tape. You just do. Like, if I'm ever down and out, I'll go to 2 highlight tapes that gets me excited. It's his and it's Tyrann Mathieu. So there's a piece of me that likes Florida State just a little bit. But Sunday, baby, Sunday night, ABC on the Mickey Mouse Network. Let's go. I'm really excited. Let's do it.
Well, if you're talking early to mid 30s, I guess we don't do that on this show. We like either cut it high or low on the age scale, Carter. we got bookended on both ends, but no mid 30s here. So you're filling the gap for us.
That's right.
You are filling the gap. So we appreciate you being here. This should be a heck of a ball game, a big ball game for both teams. I was making the comment to Logan a few minutes ago that during this struggle that Florida State's had since 2017, it's been rare that they faced a big-time opponent that, in a sense, has more questions than they do. Not necessarily bad questions, just questions that need to be answered on the LSU side. And, of course, that starts with the quarterback position. You still have 3 in play, and that doesn't even include the 5-star true freshman.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting, right? So you go into this game with Florida State having some clarity of what they're going to have at quarterback, and LSU, Mark, is on the opposite end of the spectrum. I don't think even the coaching staff knows who their quarterback is going to be right now, where, of course, it looks – I'll throw this to Logan in the chat. It looks as if Jordan Travis is 99.9% going to be the guy, correct?
Yep.
Okay, yep. So – it's the opposite, obviously, with LSU. And I honestly don't know what the coaches feel at this point, who their guy is going to be going into this next year. Because, going into the summer, Mark, and you and I discussed this before, and we've discussed this on my channel, it was just looking like it's going to be Jaden Daniels versus Miles Brennan, and then Garrett Nussmeier shows up and shows out in the spring game, and he's in year 2 of his development. So as of right now, I feel as if LSU doesn't know who their quarterback is going to be.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier too, because Florida State, I think probably the best thing that Florida State's going to be able to bring on Sunday when it comes is it's probably Florida State's defensive line. And, we talked about how that's going to play an impact to whenever y'all have got a quarterback going into the first week and understanding the whole system. That's going to be definitely a heavily favored LSU crowd, which I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah,
it's definitely going to be rowdy in there, but let alone that's still a big time prime time matchup with, a team, Mike Norvell, a coach that desperately needs a win like this, not just to save his job, but for recruiting too, and a lot of additional things that go with it. But the quarterback room for y'all, y'all are still thinking about that. Meanwhile, Florida State has a guy that they feel very confident in that they'll, name the starter. He is the starter. Norvell said it this spring. Now, this is our starter, and we're going to put guys around him to be better. And this is really Jordan Travis's second year too. But for some to be on this stage, though, he hasn't really hit this kind of stage where you had a neutral site game. I call it neutral, but this is going to be heavily impacted by LSU fans. This is going to be a whole different stage for him. Can he make plays? Can he have the calmness where he can just sit back? Can he be in the pocket long? Is that going to get him where he gets antsy again, which is something that hurt him a while back? There's just so many different things, at least quarterback wise, going head to head, that we'll be watching, we'll be watching more of your camp more than anything, because Florida State has their guy, but watching y'all start to fall camp, really understanding who y'all intend on going with. Is there anybody, maybe that you saw or heard from the spring that had a good spring in the quarterback room that might, you might have a projection on who Brian Kelly might go with?
Honestly, Logan, really was like, yeah, obviously Jaden Daniels was the heavy favorite with 3 years of starters experience. He was also very durable, and he had a fine camp, but the other two quarterbacks are simply better throwers of the football. Now, what's really interesting, you mentioned Florida State's defensive line. LSU also has a really talented defensive line in and of themselves. What's really, to me, the key, and you guys mentioned Alex Atkins a minute ago, very good young offensive line coach. LSU has Brad Davis. I know they kicked the tires. I know Alex Atkins' name was rumored for a second for someone that LSU might pursue as well. I think those two guys are going to be very key in this matchup because obviously with LSU's offensive line, they have a lot of new bodies. And for some reason, Florida State, dating back to the late Jameis Winston years, they've always had offensive line issues. I don't know exactly why that's been the case. I know, once again, I don't know as much about Florida State as neither one of you guys, but every time I watch them play, I'm like, God, it's just crazy. Florida produces so much offensive line talent, and they can't ever seem to get a good five that works well together. So those two guys are going to have a really difficult time going up against each other's defensive lines, no matter who the quarterback's going to be.
Yeah, you're completely right. Please don't remind me again about how awful Florida State's offensive line has been throughout the last, like you said, really been a decade where Florida State just cannot find an answer there. And we were talking about it earlier. Florida State definitely has the offensive line coach that they need, and they're starting to bring in that class, but it's not going to have any kind of effect on this game whatsoever. No impact will happen. But